Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. And I'm not doing a phone call interview today because I have an amazing guest. Anytime you can bring a Super Bowl champion to the studios in Pittsburgh, what a fantastic situation. A former coach doing some unbelievable things, talking about academic and athletics and getting high school students to college in different ways and doing so many amazing things. So I'm so excited to welcome to the studio Super Bowl champion Darnell Dinkins, Pitt star. I'm excited to have you on the show. We're going to talk a lot about the first, just kind of introducing you for a couple episodes, because I want to know the story. Anyone who's a Pittsburgh guy ended up making it in the NFL. There are so many people probably wanting to be in this seat saying, I was a Super Bowl champion. I played at the University of Pittsburgh, got the D1, and got to coach in the NFL and also in college. You have a great story. So we'll take this, and this could be a book itself by just me telling the story of interviewing you. Because it's probably hard to think of putting it on paper. But what a ride, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Well, Neil, I want to first thank you for allowing me to come today. It's been a great honor, and we've been working together on so many different projects. So this is just continuing that saga of what we've been doing. Like you said, my story is not your typical, walk in the park story. Where you go, you work hard on the podium, you go through the NFL. My story is a story of another testimony, I like to say. And it's a story of encouragement that's going to help a lot of young kids, a lot of young passionate kids who may not know of any other way or how to get to the first to college and then the NFL,
right,
or
exactly.
possibly maybe just doing good in school. So I've been blessed to be able to have a lot of different components of my life happen that allowed me to be where I'm at today.
Exactly. So let's just start at the beginning. And I'll always, when I interview NFL athletes, I ask this question: Do you always want to be a football player? Is that someone growing up you wanted to be?
Neil, I think early on I wanted to be a wrestler. I was really into wrestling. I used to make belts. We used to jump off of fences. I was always really physical. I would stand in the mirror.
You're
and
not
go
too
through
late.
my
You can
routine.
get in the ring right now.
Exactly. Right. Stand in the mirror, and we would just have at it. And as I continued to progress through middle school was when I really found that I had a knack. My first gym coach, Coach Nania, was like, Darnell, you're out here, kids are falling to the side when you're running, you're shaking kids up. You really are talented. So I really wanted to just keep working with you in that component. At that time, I was very raw, loved watching sports. Football to me was, I had an electronic football board.
Right.
And I would line the guys up, different formations.
I did too, yeah.
And I would order new teams. And the first 4 teams I ever had on my electronic football board was the Steelers, the Browns, the Broncos, and the Redskins. I was a big Broncos fan, big Steelers fan.
Big Broncos fan.
Exactly.
I was too. Big Steelers fan.
Yep.
And I liked the Skins back in the 80s because I met Riggins and all them when they were at Carlisle for football camps. So interesting. So for our listeners and viewers all over the world, especially for our Pittsburgh audience, where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What location in Pittsburgh?
In Elmore Square, right? Lived 2 doors down from Major Harris, a good big time West Virginia quarterback, and pretty much just kind of just developed and grew. Had a stint where we lived 6 years in Baltimore, Maryland, and Cherry Hill. So growing up was a very rough childhood. Seen a lot, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence all around me, and just realized I didn't want any part of that.
Right.
A lot of kids was going down that path. I wanted to take the road less traveled. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that a guy approached me about writing a book, and we're kind of in the first phases of that as far as the journey, and I like to call it the road less traveled because it typically was me battling against different situations in my life, but fortunately enough for me, sports and things and having the right group of people around me really helped me sustain into high school. So,
well, that writing a book, I work with, again, interviewing the best authors, and then next week on the show, you guys are going to really get to see some big Miami Book Fair authors calling in, because that's the best fair out there internationally. You wouldn't believe the street fair, 20,000 people. I got to cover it 1 year in Miami. I want to go to Miami this year. My wife says no, so I'm going to be broadcasting live after that. But
well, you're better than me. If I went to Miami, I think the last thing I would think about would be seeing a book.
Well, so that's part of the story as well. So growing up, so you were in Pittsburgh at first, then moved to Baltimore. So basically, you played high school in Pittsburgh, right?
Absolutely.
So you like started your childhood in Pittsburgh. Why did you relocate to Baltimore?
Well, my mom was just looking for, a change of scenery. She moved down there when I was going through elementary school. For those 6 years, I'm down there, was, cool, met a lot of new friends. That's when I really got into the physicality of things and thought that I was going to be a wrestler. Came back in middle school, went to Margaret Malines Middle School, and that's when I really started seeing how good I was and how fast I was as far as sports. I was playing against kids my age and just really outrunning them. I would, hurt kids' fingers from throwing the ball. I used to think throwing the ball was a bad thing. Throwing the heart was a bad thing. So as I progressed through high school, I had a lot of different opportunities to do a lot of different things. I wanted to play football, and I ended up making the football team my freshman year and the basketball team my freshman year. And the coach seen me throwing on the sideline and said, I want you to start really repping in at QB. This whole time I thought I was going to be a receiver, whatnot. Started playing QB the next year. I worked at it. And one thing I tell kids nowadays, if it's something that you really want, you got to commit to it. We got too much of an HD society. And I don't call it high definition, but head down. Kids think they could tweet or iPad or look up something on a computer and figure out how to do it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, elbow grease to get things done. So I would go out and practice my throwing to the point where the next following year I was the starting sophomore quarterback and starting for Shinley High School. And that just kind of started the onslaught of stuff where near the midway through the season, I ended up getting my first 4 letters, which were from Navy, Notre Dame, Pitt, and Virginia Tech. So as a sophomore, I kind of got a glimpse of what this, recruiting thing could end up being like.
So we're going to bounce back a bit, and this is what I do as an interviewer, saying I want to learn this story, and I have you here, and for our viewers and especially listeners as well, just thinking about it. When you were talking about the whole process journey to quarterback, at that time, tell us what year that was when you're in high school as a sophomore, because again, the black quarterback has just changed in so many ways.
Absolutely.
To the point now where you look at a Russell Wilson that they're not saying he's a black quarterback, and he's a winner, and he's not the prototypical. Think of if Cordell Stewart would have been at that time right now, how more, I guess, they would consider him a good quarterback. There was just so many misconceptions 10 years ago. Now they were always looking at numbers, but now they look at Russell Wilson as a winner. It's not about the numbers and the QB rating always, or I guess the 350 yards, Peyton Manning style. So when you were playing as a quarterback, what year was that?
That was when I was in high school. That was in 1992. Well, 91 was my first year, freshman, so 92 was when I was starting. And you figure in a time over 20-something years, production was based upon if you could drop back, get out to receivers, hand out to running back. Now, teams see that production is based upon how many yards you can get, whether running and or throwing from the quarterback position. So if I were playing now, people would be flocking to me. I would be probably more like a Colin Kaepernick, as far as the way he plays. Almost similar styles, the way I threw the ball and the way I ran with the ball. But at the end of the day, back when I was, in that time, people were trying to put a square peg into a round hole. They wanted quarterbacks to fit a certain system. They wanted you to hit the third step, either hitch or no hitch, get the ball out to the flat, get out to the receiver. And so now when you got more of a zone read type offense, now I'm trying to create situations where I'm eliminating defenders out of the box. And now I have an extra guy. Whenever teams do 9-on-7 drills, it's 9 defensive guys against 9 offensive guys, but you figure the quarterback can't block and the running back can't block, so it ends up being 9-on-7. So if you end up getting an extra guy in, which is a running quarterback, now it adds a different component to the defense and the offense, and that's why you see so many teams struggling with the running quarterback. So it just adds a new dynamic to offensive systems.
Which again, in the system, so you're looking at a lot of, I consider, think about it, we had Doug Williams, we had Randall Cunningham, there wasn't much more.
Warren Moon.
But Warren Moon, so I'm just thinking that was you're looking at 2000. So if I'm right on the eight, so what quarterback did you emulate? Randall Cunningham?
I really love Randall Cunningham, and I really love
I've interviewed
John
Randall.
Elway.
What a great guy he is.
Great guy. And John Elway was...
Oh, Elway's my favorite. Oh, yeah, you're a Bronco fan.
I'm a Bronco fan, so I love John Elway. But, as I was coming up, I still, was always under the impression or assumption like, why is it bad when a African American quarterback run, and why is it seen as such a great added bonus when a Caucasian quarterback run? You look at how Steve Young and John Elway's viewed for their running ability, and you look at how Randall Cunningham is viewed for his running ability. Lacking the ability to make the throw. So at the end of the day, I really try to focus. I focus on trying to create a quarterback that can sit in the pocket and can throw with the ability to pass. So that was, going through that time. Then I ended up in '95 when I chose Pitt and thought that I would only play quarterback there.
And who was the coach in 1995 at Pitt?
At that time, I was being recruited heavily by one of the top 100 players in the country, and Johnny Majors came to my house in particular, him and Bob Babbage, who's still a position coach. And Bob he was with Jacksonville last I remember, but and really just said, hey, we want you to come to Pitt. You'll be our #1 recruit coming in this year. You play nothing other than quarterback. And I think that's why what I do now in with my company Dynamite Sports, speaking all over about the recruiting process, I want kids to understand that college is not a one-year commitment. And it's not a commitment based upon what the coaches are telling you. You need to make sure that it has everything you need, from an athletic component, an academic component, and then a social component. I was only focusing on academics and what the coaches were saying at that particular time. And I was the only person in my family who had ever been to college at that point. So,
and in Pitt, at that point, you're thinking of the program at the University of Pittsburgh. I mean, you just think of you grew up remembering the days of Pitt winning with Dan Marino and stuff. So you're thinking that...
it was right up the hill from my house, so I could literally watch them practice. So I would see the quarterbacks they had, and they didn't have anybody with a type of ability.
You were born in 77, right?
77,
yes. Because I'm 73, so I'm 4 years older than you are. Yes. But I mean, you definitely saw, even at that point in time, Pitt football in the 80s, where
absolutely
the type of... when the program still was an elite program. Exactly. And at that point, you thought the elite program was coming back with Johnny Majors.
Absolutely.
And so you're in this process, just like the story that I was hearing about Ben Roethlisberger. He could have ended up being a Pitt player if he knew he would have started right off the bat. So he decided to go to Miami, Ohio, or not. They were talking about that on The Fan. So we get back. We're going to continue this conversation with Darnell Dinkins, and definitely DinkinsEthicTraining.com. You can find out information on what he's doing on the training side and the academic side, DynamiteSports.com. And we'll be back on the Neil Haley Show in just a moment.
Hello, my name is Greg Stewart. I have been a train collector and train operator for approximately 40 years, and we started a project approximately 5 years ago. The project involves collecting trains of all types, train platforms, race car sets, anything that we can use. Basically, we put the sets together, we assemble the sets, clean them, make sure they operate, put them in boxes that look like brand new train sets. We include an instruction sheet, and we give those train sets to children at Christmas time. We are requesting anyone that has trains of any type, from HO to large-scale trains, road race sets, train platforms of any type. We can take that, we can clean it, fix it, make it look like brand new, and we give those again to children at Christmas time. That one spark that starts a relationship with this hobby will last your lifetime. And myself and Bob are proof of that. Again, I've been doing this for approximately 40 years. And we are looking forward to a prosperous Christmas and to give out as many train sets as possible. To contact me, I can be reached at, my cell phone number is 412-526-3427. My email address is gestewart@comcast.net. And then also, Bob Evans can be reached through the Ambridge Train Club, which is located in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. Their email address also. In addition, the Ambridge Train Club at Christmas time does a beautiful train display from Thanksgiving through January that they invite the public to come. They also give out train sets during the day randomly to children that do come into the train club. So please either contact me again, Greg Stewart, or Bob Evans, and I can be reached at 412-526-3427. or gestewart@comcast.net. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and I am just unbelievably shocked because Darnell and I have been able to talk weekly about Pitt football and also about what he's doing on the athletic, academic side of things. But what I've missed is how similar we are in specific things. I'm not a Super Bowl champion, but I was a professional wrestler. I wore those heavyweight title belts in certain towns. I dealt with certain things, but we have a journey that's about helping kids, and that's his journey, and that's why we have come together for sure. But I wanted to know the story, and I think people that want to say, well, why should Darnell go ahead and work and help us out on the sides of preparing him for the recruiting process, and why should we talk to Darnell about training? Being in the best shape. Look at the shape he's in at this point in his life, and continue, and also the coaching end. So we're learning the story of Darnell Dinkins on a few more shows for sure of the stories. You see me asking questions. So we're talking quarterback. You recruited Johnny Majors in your house. Did you know who Johnny Majors was? Because you were more Jackie Sherrill, right? Probably growing up, you remember Jackie more.
No, I remember Jackie, but at the end of the day, I remember players more than coaches. When I was younger, it was all about the players,
So what Pitt players growing up did you?
Dickerson, you had Aaron Head Hayward.
Oh, I love
those guys alone spoke volume on the Pitt program.
Pitt Stadium was just such a tremendous atmosphere for football.
Absolutely. And so, when you got all those different type of talented kids and players around, it just really makes you gravitate. Then I was really good friends with Curtis Martin. So just seeing him down there and doing the things he did coming from the City League, it was just kind of a no-brainer.
Huge fan of Curtis Martin too, yeah.
So, it just really made sense. And so as I continued to try to figure out where I was going to go, it really came down to Pitt, Michigan State, Virginia Tech, and Penn State. As far as where I was going to end up spending the next couple of years, I just felt like Penn State just stockpiled talent, and they just had.
Did Joe Paterno come to your house?
No, Joe Paterno came to my school, and really just was looking at me and trying to recruit me. J.B. Grimes from Virginia Tech came. Joe Moore, who's now passed away, was Notre Dame's coach who was really recruiting me. And then Michigan State had just signed Tony Banks at the time from a JC. So I'm like, well, if I go there, I won't be able to play quarterback.
So were you one of the best in Western Pennsylvania at that time?
Brandon Short was one recruit, and I was number 2 recruit.
Yeah, okay.
So we really went hand in hand, and we did a lot of stuff. Played really big in the Big 33 game. And like I said, you get caught up in how good you are in your particular area. That's why when I speak all over now, I really tell kids this. At that time, I didn't understand the vastness of this country and all the football that's going on. There's 1.1 million kids that go out for high school football every single year. Mm-hmm. From that 1.1 million kids, there's going to be about 316,000 that's going to be seniors just alone this year. And from that, 67,887 is going to get scholarships to college. That's about 6.1% of the kids from high school to college that goes to college. So it really takes more than just being a good player in your area. And if I had understood that back then, I would have really focused on the academic side of things a little bit more. I would have found a school that really fit my, surroundings. Probably would have ended up better offensively if I had gone to Virginia Tech, based on what they were doing at that time with Maurice DeShazo, a couple of Jim Drunkenmiller, a couple of quarterbacks that they had at that time. So it really it panned out. It worked out for the best in the long run.
But it was a hard road, and that's Absolutely. Road. I've had him on an interview on my radio station before, but not getting into the story of really breaking down the story, especially when you're thinking about how big of a recruit you were.
Exactly.
But see, the thing that you see did you believe at that point they still didn't understand about the African American quarterback,
they
black quarterback. They didn't understand about it. And when they were saying, I'm sure when you were talking to schools, we want to convert you. We want to get you out of the quarterback, and you love being a quarterback, right?
Absolutely. I love throwing the ball. I mean, I could do it very well. I could roll to the right, throw 80 yards, roll to the left, throw 80 yards, hit every pass that was needed. But I still think at the time it was thought that, African-American quarterbacks can grasp the whole offensive concept. This can't be the identity of our team. When you think of a quarterback, you consider a body. And in that body, you got legs, arms, shoulders, and then the head is pretty much symbolic of the quarterback. And I think that at that time, it was hard to see an African-American quarterback being able to go out there and make the decisions and be a transition from coach to player now.
Yes.
The quarterback should be an extension of the coach.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of coaches had issues thinking that can an African American quarterback hold the same, thought process. So it was never a matter of being able to be better. So at that point, Coach Majors got, fired. We didn't do well. Walt Harris came from Ohio State.
Right.
And, me, Pete Gonzalez, Matt Lytle, all of us was going through a quarterback battle. When it was all said and done, now Walt Harris has coached a lot of great players, Larry Fitzgerald, Pete Gonzalez, Bobby Hoying, Terry Glenn, Eddie George, guys from Ohio State.
Yeah. He was the quarterback guru.
He was a quarterback guru. So as I went there,
but a West Coast style that really doesn't.
But it really helped me transition to the NFL, learning from him that year. I ended up going through practice. We charted every pass from training camp. Pete was 71%. I was 63%. Matt was 47%. At the end of camp, I had the most touchdown passes than Pete, than Matt. Well, he came in and said, "Well, I'm going to name." Pete the starter and Matt the backup because he got more game experience from the previous year than you. I said, well, how am I ever going to get that? So I was like, you know what? Don't want to play quarterback no more. I'll just change my position. So I was dealing with dynamics, even though I was proving that I could do it on the field. And it was a hard time to go through. So as I continued to progress through Pitt, I ended up playing safety, had a lot of pass breakups, a lot of different things going on, had to deal with a lot of different coaches' situations, how they perceived me. I didn't talk a lot, say that I was selfish, but every time we worked out or anybody in the locker room, I was a team guy. I drove all the guys. You could talk to a guy like Sean Robinson, Matt Morgan, who's now the coach at Plum. They'll tell you when they was conditioned, I was a guy picking them up and running with them when we were just together as a team. So as I made it out my senior year, I ended up getting hurt my back. Ramon Walker came on the safety, played very well. I had to play sparingly. I ended up playing some linebacker, had a game where I really did good, then they didn't play me after that. So Coach Walt Harris, after all that time I picked, going through all the position changes, playing linebacker, tight end, not tight end, linebacker, receiver, quarterback, safety, driving the team bus, washing clothes. He said nobody endured more adversity than you have as a coach that he has
Why
seen.
were you driving the team bus?
No, I was playing around. I'm just saying, I was just using the figure of speech. That's how much stuff I was doing.
Because you had to make that transition. You were a superstar high school athlete. Now, were you starting on defense, right?
I was starting. I led the team in tackles one year, and I made a lot of pass breakups. And a lot of times they would not play me because they felt I didn't appreciate playing that position. So if I didn't look at a coach or something at the end of practice, they assumed that I was being disrespectful. So there's a lot of things that happened on the tail end, but at the end of it all, Walt Harris said, "You're the only person I ever put a picture up in my office because you exemplified, being able to overcome adversity, and you've lasted in the NFL because of it." So it was after going through all the mess that I had to go through at Pitt, enduring the losses, enduring the lack of being able to play because I was, I don't know if it was. Maybe I lacked something that they were looking for. On the surface, it looks like another African-American quarterback who got abilities that's okay, but we don't need it at that position. We just want a guy who can throw. Now, if you factor in all this zone reading stuff with the quarterback, I would be, throwing lights out down there right now. But, it is what it is. You learn it, and guys like myself and other quarterbacks have paved the way for the quarterbacks who get to do it now.
Definitely. And so you went through quickly that Pitt season, and I know a lot of people want to talk about when first of all Walt Harris got hired, everyone was just discouraged. You went through a horrible year with Majors, right?
Yes.
What was your record? It was like
2-9 or 1. It was really bad. We went to the point where we went to Ohio State and the game was over before it even started. I think the final score was 66-7 or something. It was really one of them games where you just was looking at the scoreboard like it's only the second quarter and it's 40s. It was one of those type of games.
And the couple years before that, or like 4 years ago, there was Curtis Martin, and they were winning games and stuff like that. So it's just really a strange occurrence because you go through the days of Foes-Fazia where you have top recruits and then all these different things. So how did it feel to be losing? Especially and you're at this point where you thought, okay, I'm going to a big time school. Johnny Majors is here, and you didn't choose Penn State. You didn't choose some of the winning teams. How did that feel to go through that?
I think if I had the right people in my corner, they probably could have walked me through the situation a little bit better. But at the same time, like most kids now, I was very prideful and thought that I was the it factor. I thought I can go there, and based on what I had done at Shenley, which was a team that was kind of on the brink, and then once I got there, helped us achieve great success. I thought I could do the same thing with my ability and bringing out the players who we had down there. So, but at the end of the day, most of these schools and colleges is all based around recruiting. The good teams are good because they recruit good. The bad teams are bad because they don't get the top players.
You didn't have the right people telling you to evaluate Pitt, see the
exactly.
The program
as far as what position they truly wanted me, for, I think Pitt's mind was to get an athlete who can fit at some point if he gets molded into that position.
Right.
So whether it was quarterback, whether it was receiver, I mean, Lord willing, it could have been tight end for all those years I was there. But if I had bought into their system of being able to mold a certain player, if I could do it all over again, I probably would play more outside linebacker or tight end for the duration of time. If I had not played quarterback, it would only help me. I think I would have been able to find a more comfortable fit being closer to the ball. But at the end of the day, I was still able to make plays. And like I said, God found a way for me to continue to progress as not only as an athlete, but as a student as well.
So your sophomore year, Harris, then you finally switched junior year to safety. You said so you're not that built and big yet. And so the story is, so how did he become an NFL player, especially, and be this gigantic of a guy? And that's the story we're going to continue talking about in so many ways, which is amazing how quickly our first show is on, and then next month talk more about it. But I guess the way to kind of segue us out of it is one more thing. It's just the Pitt program. Do you feel that the Pitt program right now is where it was when you started, and it looks like it was going to go into a building phase? Because it looks like you look at the glory days of Pitt, of Fitzgerald and Shady and stuff like that, where they were winning 7-8 games, and now they're where they are today.
Exactly.
And could it go down even further?
I don't think it could go down even further. But what I do say, like anything, you can't be a team of a double mind. You can't have this concept over here fighting against this concept over here. That's what a lot of NFL teams do. Front office fighting with coaches. The product on the field never pans out. So in saying that, when Pitt, after my days, I think Pitt got really good as Wolt continued to recruit type of brand of player.
Yes.
We started getting names for certain positions, especially with receivers and offensive type players.
Right.
Now you catapult that, with a Wanstead coming in and having consistency and tenure. That's what makes college programs really good. Unless you were just in a dynamic brand of a conference like the ACC or the SEC, then it's hard to get those top flight players, because kids want to be seen on television as well. So now we got consistency at quarterback, and I tell kids this all the time, like I said earlier in the segment, college is not a 1-year commitment, it's a 4 to 5 year commitment.
Exactly.
You can't base it on a coach who may be there or may not be there.
Exactly.
I.e. Todd Graham, who was kind of in a revolving door. He was in and he was gone.
Yeah.
At the same time.
That really killed him, where the text message and then decided to go all the way.
Exactly.
So it's amazing. So where can we quickly find information on you? And then next month we're going to go right into some more of your career. And we're not even in the NFL yet, so we have a long story to go.
We got a long way to go. The second phase of how I got to the NFL was probably way more interesting than the whole Pitt stuff. So
we're going to talk Pitt football. Trust me. I still want to talk about the Liberty Bowl before the Liberty and all that. So
people can follow me on Twitter at Darnell_Dinkins, or you can follow me or look at our information on www.dinkinsethictraining.com. And if you really want to email me, you can email me at ddinkins@dynamitesport.com. But all of those avenues, they can really see what we're doing, how we're helping kids both athletically, academically, and more importantly, the 6 inches between the ears.
All right, and so you go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. Thank you, Bethel Park, again for the television show. I love how we're connecting with all people all over the world, TV and radio, on the Total Education Network. Have a great week. We'll talk next week with more great TV and radio. Good day, everyone.